Greetings, Warlords. Rodge here. Welcome to Saga Thursday, the show all about the skirmish miniatures game from Studio Tomahawk. Got another monthly episode here with Monty. Monty, how's it going?
Excellent, Rodge. How about yourself?
I'm good. Recording early in the morning here in July. Feels good.
Yes, it does.
And we're going to have a good show today. For the topic this time, we're going to be talking about how to properly use your Warlord in the game of Saga. So, kind of a newer player bent, but I'm sure it'll be interesting for veterans to listen in to our advice on this topic. And then after that, we do have the paint contest. It's that time once again to announce the paint contest, so stick around for that. But before we get to that, a little bit of Saga news for you, which really just this month is the Warband Building Challenge is going on over on Patreon. We got a ton of entries. Monty, I successfully completed my initial entry there. It was just a point of Hearthguard. I'm doing Age of Magic, and it's going to be a warband for the new Age of Magic book, which is coming up. And I actually had to do it. I had to finish a day early. We're going out of town, and somehow managed to pull it. But I love this building challenge because I had 2 late nights to get them finished in time, and I just had to power through, figure it out. There's a few failed paint schemes along the way. I'll probably post those, but I would not have finished these troops otherwise. So the magic of the building challenge and just having that extra little, I don't know, whatever tugging on you to get it done has been pretty huge for me. And once I got into it this time, I remember it from last time, that same thing, just getting all those mutts done, and it just wouldn't have happened otherwise. So really happy I'm in the Warband Challenge. And if you want to get in on it, you can head over to the Patreon. You can still catch up. You just got to do an extra point at some point to get up to speed, but it's a point a month, and it's a lot of fun, and it's really cool seeing everybody's results so far. A lot of chivalry going on in preparation for the upcoming book, which hopefully should be out sometime this year. And that's all I can say about that this time. We'll let you know when we get those hard details, Monty, when it's coming out. But
okay,
Monty, you been doing any painting on your own? I know you're not built for the building challenge as a hobbyist.
You make me think. I have 2 quick questions.
Yeah.
You make me think. So the first thing is it too late to join? Because I think it fired up in June, right?
Yeah, it was June. We're just in July here. So you can still join in. At some point, you'll have an extra point that you're going to have to make up. But it's 7 months, so it's 6 points and a Warlord, theoretically. So at this point, there's 6 months left, so you could do 6 points and then sneak in your Warlord at some point. So it's still doable for anybody who wants to get in on it.
Okay.
On over the Patreon link below. And what was your second question, Monty?
Well, so I have to say before I jump to the second question, I have some lovely, who is it? I think they're Gripping Beast Cataphract figures, and I know Cataphract, for different reasons, are not, maybe a fabulous unit, but they look fabulous. I could pull those guys out, join, be late, and not a horrible grind to be able to do 4 and 4. Now you got 2 points in 2 months. Get those guys started, and then scratch my head and figure out what the hell am I doing with this afterwards. Like get the door in. So maybe I could be a late ad. But number 2, I remember you were working on some beautiful 3D prints. Can you remind us who the maker is of the models that you're building and working on?
Sure. Yeah. So my army is entirely built out of Bestiarum miniatures. Those are, just from my mini factory. So, and actually it kind of ties in with the Patreon video this last month where I have purchased a 3D printer and gotten a whole hog into it. And that video is all about my experience. How much did everything cost? There's some tips and tricks. I'm still kind of fairly new to the process, but I successfully printed out the whole army without any issues getting into it. And I probably will, for the channel here, have a video about my 3D printing experience, but probably in 6 to 12 months, after a year's worth. And if you've seen how everything has gone, but so far I'm really, really, really happy with the experience so far. So yeah, Barbarian Miniatures, and they're great models. They're kind of a Dark Souls feel to them, Monty. I know that might
love it.
Trip your trigger a bit there. You
must be why I like them so much.
Yeah.
Also have nightmares when I look at them.
Well, yeah, you might have run into that problem, but yeah, really happy with everything. So if you want to take a look at those, kind of get a little inside scoop, you gotta follow on the Patreon. So
awesome.
All right. Was that the second question,
that was
Monty?
The second question. Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah. So this challenge is kind of make it your own kind of thing. So, in my spirit, this is kind of in addition to my normal painting. But if you're kind of a slow painter, and 1 point a month is usually something that doesn't happen, then I think you can join in that spirit and get it done. So, all right, Monty, let's pop over to the main topic.
Right.
So, how to use your Warlord. So this is, I guess, kind of mention as a beginner slant to it, and then we'll kind of throw out some additional ideas for consideration there. But if Monty, what do you? I'll let you start the topic here.
I'm not sure.
Okay, I can.
No, I'm teasing here. I'm teasing, but also not teasing. I'm not sure if I should lead because.
So
right. Go ahead.
I'm in my first game of Saga, and I don't. Should I put them out front or put them in the back? Or
I would say no. And here's the thing, really, right? At various times, I've done this various ways. Sometimes I've run my Warlord naked, so to speak, without any Hearthguard support because I love the all warrior or warrior and levy support. But ideally, you want to, in my opinion, especially as a new player, kind of hold him and protect him, like as your turns are going on. Like ask yourself, like when your turn starts, is my Warlord safe? And try to keep him safe through the early turns. I'd call it 1, 2, 3, and maybe turns 4, 5, and 6 when the battle's kind of a mess. Units are beaten up. Maybe he comes up to the front lines with support and gets ready to do his thing by kind of mopping up smaller units. His 8 dice and his resilience becomes better, like as enemy units are kind of beaten down. If you hang him out front, of course, your opponents are going to want to come swinging for the fences, because if you could take out the Warlord, you're effectively losing like 3 components. You're losing his Saga dice, you're losing his determination, which is like 1 free activation, and you're losing his wheel base. So it's a pretty big hit if you lose him in the early game and your opponent's Warlord stays alive. That's a big shift.
It's a three for 1, as you say. He activates himself, he activates a unit nearby, and then he generates a Saga die. So towards the end of the game, you might just have 3 or 4 Saga dice left, but if one of those is your Warlord, you still got the determination, the we obey, so it's kind of like extra 2, if you're only going to have 3 or 4 activations, maybe, you're going to have 5 or 6 instead,
right.
So it's more efficient. So, I agree. So we've heard of the Saga battery before, the 4-man warrior, so I think it's perfectly fine to just think of your Warlord as the Saga dice battery. So he just hangs out behind. He's the 3 for 1. He moves himself to get where he needs to do the we obey. He generates a Saga die, and it's tough to take him out. And that's fine. If they want to come at him, you're not going to commit him, but he, put up 8 attacks. Maybe it'll be hopefully it's a mistake on their part to try to go for the Warlord. So I do advise, if you're a newer player, to take a unit of Hearthguard. I always take a unit of Hearthguard. I can't think of when I haven't taken a unit of Hearthguard. I don't think several years at least. So obviously you could do well, take a unit of Hearthguard, nothing wrong with that. So I would, and I kind of use those as like a Saga Die battery as well. I usually don't commit them early. So I've got 2 units that are kind of generating 2 Saga Dice. They're hanging around the backfield. They're ready to jump in if they need to. But I think that's a perfectly viable way to run your Warlord, is have them hang back. And how often does your Warlord not even get into a fight, Monty? Or where you charge him in?
Right. So so that would be pretty rarely. Like at some point, you're going to have to reach in and use them.
Yeah. So just keep him behind to start. And then at some point, there will be a time. He's hovering behind your lines. You're making it difficult for your opponent. You might have the 4 Hearthguard there. So between those 2 units, when the time for reserves to be thrown in to the fray comes, I'll usually throw in the Warlord first, and then the Hearthguard will just follow up. We know how juicy the Hearthguard can be, so few wounds. So usually I send in the Warlord first, and the Hearthguard are there kind of to back him up, rather than sending in the Hearthguard. Yeah, you might think they're more disposable. But it's really, they're there to support the Warlord and keep him alive. And as long as the Hearthguard are fresh, they're not bad. They're a little trickier to get at, but as soon as you throw them into combat, they're fatigued. They lost a guy or 2.
Yep.
The counterattack comes and wipes them out. Versus sending in the Warlord, does his stuff, probably is exhausted, but you got 4 Hearthguards sitting next to him, so it becomes a taller order. So, yeah, at some point you want to throw the Warlord in, because he's going to kill some of your opponent's models, and hopefully he will not die. He might get exhausted, but that's a net gain if you can keep him alive till the end of the game, until you rest that fatigue off. So it can be enticing to get him in a little earlier. Maybe I have this problem where I'm kind of always looking for opportunities to throw him in if I think I can get away with it, and sometimes that's an issue. But as long as you have the 4 Hearthguard there, they're fresh. It can be pretty tough, especially if you're a Warlord on foot, closing ranks, blocking on 4s, if you have a defensive ability or 2. So I guess I do kind of look for opportunities to throw them at. Are you aggressive Warlord, Monty, or?
I mean, I have been, but I've also been just toasted by when I'm getting aggressive. It'll be like, what really sticks out of my mind is, like, you see a kind of juicy ability, maybe a beat up unit. There are like 4 warriors. You're like, oh, if I just take 1 die off him, right?
Yeah.
This will be the key unit. And then I can't hold myself back. My Warlord goes charging in, and somehow they throw all 5s and 6s. And my Warlord goes from fresh to exhausted, and now he's kind of hanging out in the wind. And I'm like, ooh, that does happen. I mean, the dice say, hey, that was maybe a bad idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see it. Yeah, if you can kind of change the tide a little bit, fatigue bomb or knock a Saga Die down, I think that is an opportunity to throw them in there. It's going to have a measurable impact. But like the dice gods usually try to intervene in that situation. I'm trying back to Adepticon.
Oh, gosh.
I'll just wipe these. There's just 2 of them left. I'll just wipe them out. Kill 1. Warlord's exhausted. Gets killed the next turn by Steve.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, God dang it.
Right.
Come on, man.
Loki.
So, yeah. I don't know, just because there's 1 model, so it's kind of all or nothing. So when Yeah, the dice gods come calling. Yeah, you seem to remember it a lot more.
You do, you do. Even if it's an, obviously an outlier, the sting stays with you.
Yeah, so there's the basic Saga Battery Warlord, which I think for most of the players, most of the time, is the best way to think about them. There are kind of two other styles of Warlord, I would say, are out there. And this comes down to your battle board.
Yep.
And that is a shooting Warlord, and then kind of a more of an aggressive type Warlord, which, if you're shooting, you're kind of just more aggressive anyways. Usually, the Warlord doesn't have a bow, so I'm thinking javelins, a javelin Warlord, and you're definitely going to be moving him up. I hate being shot by the Warlord so much. He generates 4 dice.
Right.
And it's usually free, and there's no downside. He just comes up. He's bullying a already depleted unit and plucking those 4 extra shots. It just annoys me to no end. Any advice on using the shooty Warlord, Monty? You run the Welsh, the pick chariot. He's got jabs.
Right. I mean, you've hit on it. I think the real key is that the shooting warlords are generally more vulnerable. They're going to be probably mounted, and even if they're not mounted, the shooting weapon's going to pull their armor from a 5 to a 4. So you're going to want to have a plan for, maybe he's mounted, or maybe he's not. You're going to probably want to have a plan where you roll up, you shoot, and then you pull back. And so on one hand, yes, you're inflicting that fatigue, but if you have the dice for it, if you have the speed of being mounted that puts you puts you out of harm's way, or pulls you back to being near like a little Hearthguard battery, you can get away with the activate forward, shoot for really no risks, hope you get lucky on your dice, and then pull back and deal with the fatigue in your next turn with a determination or a die.
Yeah, so he's just a single model. Chariot aside for the picks being a special case. He's pretty easy to screen with a unit or something like that. So thinking about the Irish recently, I've been running those guys, and it's easy enough to move them forward, shoot, and then I'll actually move a unit like in front of him, like after that. So the screen's kind of moving forward instead of him pulling back. I'm pulling the other troops forward, and you kind of you can kind of see how things are progressing with your shooting there. You can shoot enough guys that even if somehow he pulls that screen or whatever, that unit is more than medium away or something like that. So definitely keep interposing models one way or another between that shooting warlord. He's not going to be able to close ranks, but on the plus side, he's getting free shots, and he's not he's risking a bit, but he's not risking everything to bring it into you. So there's the shooting warlord out there. So definitely try to get your money's worth. They're super annoying. I mean, you could 2, 3, 4 rounds of shooting. That's like 16 shooting attacks for free for 4. I mean, you can do that every turn, and potentially be charging in as well. You can get a ton of work done with those javelin warlords, be they on foot or horse. The other type of warlord is the aggressive warlord. So this is the frontline warlord, and certain warbands, I think this is doable. I would say actually you could do this with most any warband as long as you have 8 or more Hearthguard models. Not that that's advisable. It kind of depends on the faction, whether you want to do that or not. But like if you're running Crusaders or something, you're taking a bucket, 8 or 12 Hearthguard, you could send your warlord out there. You're going to have 2 or maybe 3 units within, if you have 6 or 8 Hearthguard models within S of your warlord, it doesn't, circumstances don't matter. Like he's not going down unless you want him to. Obviously you don't want him line up against the whole army. They're just taking turns going in, wiping out Hearthguard for free, so to speak, when you go in and fight the warlord. But If you have 6 or 8 Hearthguard models within short, I think you can be a lot more aggressive in the Warlord, and especially if you have them split up among multiple units. There's can be some shenanigans with kind of pushing the Hearthguard away or stuff like that. But the warband I'm thinking of, Monty, is our friends the Anglo-Danes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If your first charge isn't with the Warlord of the Anglo-Danes, I think you're doing it wrong, Monty. What do you say to that?
Yeah, that's they have the board play in the bottom right-hand corner. I don't have my board right here in front of me, but
Lord of War.
there we go.
Yeah,
that's the title, right? That's the description, and that's what you should be doing. So
yeah, so it's kind of a more boring warband, people will say, but they're just forgetting about Lord of War.
I think so.
Dynamic you can be with that warlord, especially with the heavy weapon. Any warband with good fatigue type management, obviously there's going to be kind of warlord-ish only abilities. Another great warband to be aggressive with the warlord is Saxon board. Its 2 abilities require higher armor. You've got the Führer ability, where you can slough off fatigue really quite easily. You can have a really survivable warlord there, and you could send him out first thing and I think get away with it. I think the Vikings do it well. He can slough off a fatigue himself with that upper left ability, and then if he gets charged, he can get rid of a fatigue. You can use Frigg to get rid of a fatigue. And there's a few different, so that's 3 fatigues you could slough off between all those abilities.
Yeah.
The Norse Gale Warlord as well, another juicy fella. You can increase his armor, slough the fatigues off to the slave levy units, and there's a couple of different ways to get to armor 6 and a bajillion attacks and auto hits. I think the Crusaders are a good one. There's a couple the Warlords mentioned is a few of those abilities. A lot of great defensive abilities. You're going to have a bunch of Hearthguard probably. Other war bands with the aggressive Warlord, Monty, coming to mind?
No, you really right.
Yeah, I got the easy pickings, I think.
You did. Those guys are pretty amazing, and it's a different play style. So if you want to lead with your chief, those are wonderful places to test your skills and try to batter people senseless using your warlord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think all those are great war bands. Get them on the front line, get them out there. Working one flank or another, where you've got all those abilities, you got a bunch of Hearthguard. You can end them, within range of 1 or 2 enemy units, and usually get away with it. So, thinking down to the ancient times, there's a lot riding on. Say the Macedonians and successors run really well with a big or multiple Hearthguard units, but there's a lot riding on the Warlord himself, so it's a little riskier to throw him in, because the Macedonian ability, you need the Warlord to do it fatigue free. The successors, you need the Warlord to be able to slough off the fatigues at the end of the turn. The Carthaginians Warlord, you need him for the +1 to hit ability, even though he benefits from it himself. The Gauls, maybe? Is that the best? Well, I don't ever know much about the Gaul board. I'm just picturing it.
Right. I'm a little rusty on the Gauls, but for sure, each of those 3 that you've named, they're also operating in a world where there's probably a fair amount of javelin warriors. And so kind of like D&D, people can form magic missile units that come slinging across the table and snipe the warlord. So you have to be careful, because those pieces are not just a warlord with all the benefits you mentioned. They're central to how some of those boards are run. And if your opponent sees an opening, they're going to drop those guys. And then all of a sudden, your finely tuned machine starts falling apart.
Wheels are coming off. Yeah, I can't think in the ancient times of Warlord be such a battering ram like in the Viking age.
Right.
So, I think in invasions, maybe the Goths.
Yep.
Warlord. Just kind of, you know, Warlord, they get fatigues on them. And so just being able to still be benefiting from all the abilities and not really have it be a detriment necessarily. Where a unit's exhausted, whereas 2 or 3 fatigues, you know, that's like a sitting duck. Where and the Warlord's kind of a sitting duck too, but you know, that's just normal Warlord doing his fighting, you know, ending with 2 or 3 fatigues. So, yeah, we've got some abilities there that really amp up. The Warlord kind of ending his turn exhausted. It's not as big a deal, maybe. Yeah, Saxons, Goths. Franks, he always has a Francisca, so he's pretty good there.
Right.
So he might come in handy.
Yeah.
But, maybe the Barbarian Warbands. In the Age of Crusades, yeah, I think maybe the Orange Dot Warlord can be a beast. I'll run him out, sacrifice a bunch of levy models. Yeah, they're dead, but he's alive. Or go out, do some damage. And if they come in, you've got those defensive abilities queued up. That's probably more obvious one. I can't think of any others from Crusades.
Yeah, let me pop out a couple interesting ones that you know just come to top of mind. Mm-hmm. So I like the Eastern Princess. I've seen you more than once use that ability.
Yeah.
Help me out. Is it where like the unit?
Droog?
There we go. Droog. Yeah. Yes. So he's really good to make that little kind of cool ability work. And the Matatawiya, the ability to put your Warlord on a camel, like why wouldn't you? Because kind of anytime your opponent leaves Hearthguard out there, that camel and that super juicy plays on that board, he can really do some heavy lifting. And your opponent will experience it one time, and then they won't like make that mistake again. So very situational, but a couple really interesting Warlord plays on those.
Yeah, I can see the Mats. So he starts with higher armor. So when you pop that first one, you go from 5 to a 4. You know, it's nothing to sneeze at. You know, if you're getting 6 attack dice and 4 defense die, yeah, that's still pretty tasty. So he can kind of sneak in one of those juicy abilities. Where the Warriors, you know, going from 4 to 3. You know, you're kind of dying in droves. So with the resilience. Probably some Hearthguard camels backing him up. You know, there's a way to use him. So, yeah, I think a lot of warbands can benefit from the aggressive Warlord, but I think most, especially if you're newer, just kind of start with the Saga battery. So I think it's fine if you never charge him during a game. You could still win the games. You know?
Oh yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, but usually at some point, you know, turn 3 or 4, like you said, Monty, you know, the enemy's big units have been whittled down. He can't muster more than 4 or 6 attacks in a single go. Yeah, we can get some more with Saga abilities, but the fewer units out there, the more scary the Warlord becomes. Dishing out those 8 attacks when everybody's down to 4 or 6 is pretty nasty. So yeah, don't put them out early, but don't be afraid to switch tactics halfway through, and especially if you got the Hearthguard there, don't be afraid to put them in. Anything else to say about the Warlord, Monty?
I think it's a little sidebar to the topic, but I think I see people really like they've worked on a warband, they love their warband, they kind of picked it for a reason, and so when it comes time to do the warband, you have all these opportunities, these modeling and painting opportunities to kind of jazz it up. It doesn't have to be just one guy. It can be one guy, but like you could put a fallen enemy, a helmet, a head. Yeah. They create like this little diorama. So like they have this whole story maybe in their head about this is, you know, Jarl so-and-so and he's on a tear, and, you know, really some cool models. Like people tend to try to find the coolest looking model in a particular line, and that guy is your warlord. Not just, if you could choose one, not just some schlub who's got his weapon holstered and is walking around. Although there are warlord models like that where they look more like Taxi. They're pointing and there's no sword in his hand. It's a little better if both he's pointing and has a sword, or maybe even he has a weapon in each hand. Like, maybe not historically
I like
accurate.
the pointer, yeah.
Right.
Pointing, sword in the air. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Get over there. Get over there, you. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely an opportunity to add the kind of the usually standard bearer. There is the rules for a banner in some of the books. Have you ever used a banner on your warlord, Monty? So he loses 3 attacks.
Right. I have not, and maybe I should, just simply under the tent of you should try everything. I have snuck a banner type figure in there just to like make the command stand look cooler, but I will make it clear in the game like the banner is there just for coolness and not like an actual banner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to look. Because I don't think he takes a shooting dang. I think it's just melee.
Ooh, okay.
So you could be even more of a prick with your shooting warlord. Just going to town, machine gun style.
Right.
Let me just banner. Warlord. So, oh no, it does. So his aggression is reduced to 5 in melee and 1 when shooting.
Ooh,
so don't give it to him.
Don't do that.
So 5 isn't bad.
No, 5 is melee, not bad.
Yeah, that 1 for shooting really seals the deal there. Not going to be giving that to my Irish warlord anytime soon.
No.
I'd say so. Yeah, interesting option. I would say definitely. Modeling wise, you could put the banner guy behind your warlord, and just he doesn't have a war banner, or you just tell your opponent. Nobody has any issues with that from a modeling perspective.
Yep.
And then base size, Monty, what do you have a usual size?
I do. I tend to go as small as possible unless there's a reason that I want to go the other direction. Simply because in the game, my gosh, sometimes it's a matter of millimeters. And when you put your warlord on like a pie plate, like a big piece, and then you go like it's a key moment, you need to warlord needs to save the day. He needs to do his thing. And then you get out your measurement stick and you're like, oh, I can't fit the pie plate in there. So I tend to keep his footprint as small as possible so he can squeeze in and charge in wherever I need him.
Okay. Well, I usually use 40 mil round.
Yep.
Foot.
Same.
So,
same.
Yep. Like you said, there could be some traffic jam issues once the bases get bigger. The plus side is more range for we obey on either to the left or to the right, and then having guys within S. There's a little bit more territory out there to get your Hearthguard within S. Either side. So. Those are the plus sides. But yeah, I mean, definitely have them bigger than a regular troop. So it's clear to you and your opponent who the warlord is.
Yep.
So I would say, if you're using 25s, at least put them on a 32. If you had them on a 25, I'd be like, what's going on, you weirdo? Put them on a quarter or something. Come on.
Yep.
Yeah, otherwise, if he's mounted, usually 50 millimeter round, then my cavalry is usually 50 mil.
Yep.
Pill bases. So he's a little bigger there, just to go with that. And that's usually the best of both worlds. So, yeah, so we've got the Saga Dice Battery Warlord, we got the Shooting Warlord, and the Aggressive Warlord, I think is how we can break that out. So, yep. If anybody has any thoughts on how they use their warlord, especially if it doesn't fit into this mold that we've described, I'd be curious to hear about that. So definitely comment below. But otherwise, let's move on to the next portion of our chat here, Monty, which would be The paint contest. Every 3 months, we do a paint contest over here at Saga Thursday, thanks to the patrons and all their hard work. So this theme for this quarter is going to be Age of Chivalry. So
Nice.
paint a point of troops for Age of Chivalry. So Hearthguard, Warlord, or no Warlord. He's not a point. We're going troops on this one, Monty. So Hearthguard, Warriors or Levy. Obviously, the book at this time is not out yet. Hopefully soon, Monty, it will be coming out. But there's a lot of information out there already. Activation Phase podcast had a breakdown of all the factions, and you can kind of guess at what troops will be in there. On the Saga Thursday Patreon, we've got a little more thorough breakdown, has all the equipment options, but you can figure it out. Everybody, dudes with crossbows, dudes and plate mail. Pretty safe bet doing 4 guys in plate mail with heraldry of one kind or another. We'll see it through, and this will probably be one of those books where you can get a lot of mileage out of certain factions. I'm guessing here, Monty, yeah. Even if these are French knights or something. Yeah, well, they're fighting for the English now. Yeah, that's not. We're going down to Spain. Going over to Italy. We're all over the place.
Exactly.
Fighting for everybody. So, yeah, point of Age of Chivalry. So right now, the way it works is you'll take a before picture. Monty, let's get the thumbs down. Now you'll put your models in front of the screen. Get those hands up. A little higher, Monty.
There we go. Okay.
There we go. Get those thumbs in there and take a before picture right now in front of the screen. And then, all right, Monty, we are good. We'll take a finished picture, however you see fit. This will be on the Saga Thursday Discord server. There is a paint contest channel somewhere in there, nestled in there. So that's where you'll post those. And the deadline for this one will be July 28th. So we got a good amount of time for this one. And a random person will win a 25-pound gift certificate from Gripping Beast. Our buddies over there. I've always sponsored the contest. And thanks to Andy and Gripping Beast for doing that. Monty and I will pick out our favorite, which can be based off the quality of the painting, but sometimes it's the models, the basing, or the idea behind it that sway us to the cause. Horses always get a few extra points in our book, and yeah, they will. If you're our favorite, you'll get a Saga Thursday pint glass. I don't have one handy right now, but it's a nice piece of glass. Monty, did I give you a Saga Thursday?
I do.
Thirsty Thursday pint glass?
Love that glass.
Okay.
I actually hand wash it and kind of hide it in the back so my family doesn't use it up and wear it out.
Oh, funny. Well, yeah, it's just like a normal glass in our house. So it's funny. I saw father-in-law was doing some work on her deck or something, and then walked back there, and he's drinking out of the Thirsty Thursday pint glass, a big glug of water. I'm like, you don't have any idea what's on that glass, do you? So yeah, it's a nice piece of glassware. I'm running through them. I think about halfway. Getting about halfway through the supply. So yeah, there's only 24 have been made in existence. Monty's got one, I've got one, and 22 other people will have one, and then that's it. I'll probably do another glass at that time, but one of a kind Thirsty Thursday glass is on the line for the paint contest. So definitely get in on that. I'll have all the rules and kind of everything recapped below if you missed one particular aspect of the contest, but hoping to see some chivalry stuff. Monty, have you painted any chivalry stuff? Do you own any chivalry models?
I have not, in part because I wanted to take a peek and find like the goofiest, wildest warband of the bunch.
Okay, you gotta see the book.
I
and
don't
boards
know
first,
which one.
kind of
Yeah, I don't want to do like, middle of the road. I want to find something really odd in there.
Okay,
So
cool.
we'll find out. I suppose I could go re-listen to the your video and like try to divine, like based on the equipment options, like what the oddest thing is.
Yeah, it's that you don't know the play styles or mechanics behind the stuff at this point. So, some people that's more important than others. I would say, yeah, I'm kind of split on that. Well, I don't really do too much research on the board. I don't look at the boards until it's time. Then I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to do it. Then I'll look at the board.
Yep.
So that probably might drive some people nuts. Sometimes I get early access to things and I don't even really look at them that much. Just whatever I'm interested in. So I'm kind of leaning towards the Spanish. I like the idea of the Reconquista and those different Spanish kingdoms before the kind of everything was merged into Spain. And there's a lot of French and English action down there as well. I know they were pretty involved when they were taking a break from the 100 Years' War. They'd head south and keep it going that way. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I do like the idea of the Italian war bands as well. I know they're kind of a lot of the armor and stuff from that time period seem to come from Italy. They're kind of the source. Maybe might be more appropriate having a lot more plate mail or knights in heavy armor or something from Italy. I don't know the period that well, but that's kind of my ideas there. So probably one of those two is probably more my jam at this time. So yes, let's see what we can do for chivalry. Hit the ground running, get some models done, and so we'll circle back around next month and check the results on that. Otherwise, link to the Discords below. Over 1,000 members. All kinds of chat about Saga each and every day. Head on over there. That's where you can find the Saga world map. Has a player finder, I think is what it's listed as. Trying to get to 500 pins on this baby by November 1st. So we're definitely over halfway there, but we could use a few more pins filling it out. It looks pretty impressive when you US and Europe from afar, but once you get in there, there is quite a bit of distance in between those pins. So let's fill that out. Let's show the Saga newbies out there that there's someone near them, no matter where they are.
Yeah.
And the Saga Thursday Patreon, mentioned it a few times. Links below. Wouldn't be able to do this without the patrons. So I do want to give a shout out to Patrick, Sean, Mitchell, Scott, Frank, Britt, DJ, and the rest of the Saga Thursday patrons. Won't be able to do all these extra episodes without you. Thanks to the patrons. We have a Saga Thursday each and every Thursday in 2024. So thanks, guys. Couldn't do it without you. Coming up here, pretty excited. I got 2 videos coming up. So on what's it going to be? This is coming on the 4th. Oh, be Independence Day, everybody.
Right.
On the 11th, we're having How to Build Your Warband with Stan. I believe that's what it's called. But basically, how many points of Hearthguard do you take? How many points of Warriors? How many points of Levy? What equipment do you take? Do you take the mounted or on foot? So going into a real deep dive with Stan on building your first Saga Warband and what troops you should use. And then the week after that, July 18th, we're going to do advanced warband construction, a 2-part course.
Wow.
This one will be with Patrick. So fan favorite Patrick is back, and he's got some kind of higher concepts that he uses when building a warband. Shock troops, skirmishers, frontline troops, Monty. These are the things that he thinks about when building a warband. So this will be a more advanced spin on building a warband. So we got the basic and the advanced coming out one after the other. So check back on the 11th and 18th for that. But otherwise, Monty, it's been a good show. Good chatting with you. Always good catching up, and yeah, we'll do it again. Do it again real soon. We'll be back next month with the paint contest results. So
yeah.
if you have any thoughts about the Warlords and what we've talked about, definitely comment below. How do you like to use your Warlord? Does your Warlord, are you a guy whose Warlord never sees combat? That's what I want to know. What percentage of players never throw their Warlord in? There's guys I know, Monty. You know guys like that?
Right. No, absolutely, right?
Okay. Maybe they're wise, maybe they're foolhardy, but let us know how it generally works out with your Warlord. And yeah, I'd be curious to hear that. But otherwise, that is going to be it for this one. Monty, thanks again, buddy. I'll check you later.
Bye-bye.
Saga! If you'd like to see more Saga content, consider joining the Heathen Army over on Patreon or popping on down to the Saga Thursday Discord server. Links below. Thanks, guys.